wanted to chime in on something I heard you say earlier, that was dealing with the Ten Commandments, right? You said that you were saying that the 10 are different from the rest of the 603, correct? Could you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Not different. Just most of the 613 commandments are about morality, which is what we see within the 10 commandments. Now, the only thing that I would disagree with, and which is what I would hope most people would agree with, is if you believe in the Messiah. They call it the New Testament. I don't use that terminology. It's the Brit Hadashah, which simply means the renewed covenant. Okay, in English. But so renewed, not new. Renewed. It's renewed. So, anyways, that's what he said he came to do. So, there are commandments that talk about atonement for sin, which are the animal sacrifices, ceremonial law. These things are what we call done away with. And what we mean by that is, first of all, there is no temple, number one. Number two, Yahushua was the sacrificial lamb, so we don't need to kill any more animals. And we don't need blood atonement anymore. So those are things that we leave out. We don't do, and we don't stone.
I agree.
We stone people
totally.
out. We don't stone women, obviously.
Okay, but can I chime in on that, though?
Absolutely.
Let's say, for an example, you'd still say that we still got to keep the laws or the moral laws, or whatever you call them, that are not part of the 10. You'd still say we have to keep those, right?
Sure. I mean, I would keep all of Yahuwah's instructions. I think all of Torah, which is the whole 66 book canon, which is I got it right here. Here we go. This book, the 66 book canon, this is what I follow, right? The scriptures. My version is called the BYNV. It just means the Basora of Yahusha, which is the word of Yahuwah. And NV just means Nazarene version. And Nazarene is just what you asked me about religion. I'm not a part of a religion, but you can call me a title, which is what they call Paul in the book of Acts, which is he was the ringleader of the sect of Nazarene. Nazar is just a Hebrew word that means guardians or watchmen of the word. I am is usually, if you guys understand Hebrew, it's, it shows the plural.
Can I chime in real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I think I realize what ETT is trying to say. I think he wants to know why you're separating the 613 from the 10 Commandments. Is that what you're trying to say?
I mean, we could take on that we could say that, sure.
No, but was that your point? Because you asked him a question, but I didn't quite understand it.
I think that's a fair way to assert it, sure. Let's
say my answer.
The 613 laws.
What was that?
Oh, no, I think Jesus did away with the 613 ceremonial laws, but all the moral laws remain.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Well, that's the mainstream Christian standpoint. Is that the moral laws will stand.
Really, hold on, man. We'll talk to you on that later, but I ask in end time his position.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, I answered, but I'll answer it again. Yeah, the moral law, the 10 Commandments, is what is, it's what, when you read in the Old Testament before Moses, right? And you had all these ceremonial laws and all the 613, as they like to call them. Before that, Abraham was considered righteous, and so was Noah, and so was, Enoch, and so was, they were considered righteous in Yahuwah's eyes. Had to have been, I'm going to go ahead and assume this to be true. It had to have been because they understood the moral law, which is the 10 Commandments. Which is the reason why I think they got kicked out of the garden, was they broke the 10 Commandments. That's what I believe, and that's what the evidence kind of really points to that. It's a morality thing. It's always a morality thing. You have a relationship with Yahuwah, and if you break that, he's got rules, so you can't break them. Anyway, I just think the ceremonial laws, well, to answer your question, keep it short, the ceremonial laws are done away. We don't have to kill animals for blood atonement anymore. You don't have to do that anymore. And I wouldn't go around stoning women because that's not something that we do anymore. There are some, I wouldn't say, I don't use the term done away with because people get offended by that. What I say is that it's no longer a necessity when it comes to our salvation, like, enduring to the end.
Okay, but let me chime in on that. So you'd say that as long as we live by the 10 Commandments, we should be able to receive salvation as long as we live by the 10, right?
Yes, it's like I would say, yeah, absolutely, yes. In a short,
we should be able to receive salvation as long as we live by the 10, right?
Yes, it's like I would say, yeah, absolutely, yes. In a short answer, yes. If you'd like me to elaborate, I can elaborate, but yes.
Okay, but I asked that for a specific reason. Because there are certain rules that we see in the Bible, in the 603 other rules or statutes, whatever you call them, that we don't see in the 10 Commandments, but God still considers them to be sins. Like, I'll give you an example. If you go to, let's say Leviticus chapter 20, verse 13, right? If a man lays up another man, that he's supposed to be killed for that. But that commandment, that's not found written in the 10 Commandments, right? So you'd still say that's one you got to live by, right?
Well, once again, when I started in the beginning, I said that when you look at a lot of these just the 600 commandments, they're morality issues, right? Like I was talking about the person who lost their calf, that you would replace it if it got killed in your yard. So this would be the same thing. A man shall not lie with another man, or he'll be put to death. Now back then they were trying to. I'd have to read in the context exactly, what you're talking about. If he's talking to the men of Israel, then he's expecting the men of Israel to do this. All right. If not, I mean, that does follow the Ten Commandments, because adultery is that a man is not supposed to look at another man, or excuse me, a man is not supposed to look at another woman or a man with lust in his heart, or he's committed the act of adultery. So I think what you just read actually does
where
follow
does
that
it
commandment.
say? Where in the Ten Commandments does it say that you can't lay with the same sex? Where in the Ten Commandments does it say that?
It's adultery. Anything that would be cheating.
Wait.
You're cheating on the creator of the universe, whether you sleep with a woman or a man. It really doesn't matter. But sleeping with a man is a homosexual act, and that's frowned upon, as we see it in the New Testament, or the Brit Hadashah, where he says no fornicator, no effeminate, which means homosexual. He also means women too, women lying with women. It said men would be given with men in marriage.
Okay, but I got to ask you something though on that. On that, and excuse me, I don't mean to overtalk you or not.
No.
On that.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're certainly welcome. But I wanted to ask you on that, right? Adultery is a man laying with another man's wife, right? So now we know that's what adultery is. How can we also assume?
Right, but you should elaborate.
Let me finish. So how could we assume that it also accounts for saying that a man can't lay with another man? I'm interested in seeing how you could say that, because we know adultery means that you're not supposed to lay with another man's wife.
Right. That's why I think the Brit Hadashah, the people call it the New Testament, of where Yahusha comes in the physical form and elaborates on that and he says, and I'm paraphrasing, he says, you've heard that it is, as you just said, custom that a man lays with another man's wife. He goes, but I say, if you even look at another woman with lust in your heart, that you've committed the act of adultery. That would be the same thing in a homosexual act as well. If you're a man and you look at another man in that kind of way, that's a homosexual act. That would be committing adultery.
Okay, let me ask you this.
The act is committed against Yahuwah. See, the commandment isn't for your wife. The commandment is for Yahuwah. You're obeying the commandment for Yahuwah, not for your wife.
Oh, okay, all right. I'll accept that answer. But if I have to ask you this, that's a very similar thing. Let me see real quick. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 20, verse 15, just a verse under what we just read. It says, if a man lie with a beast, he shall surely be put to death, and ye shall slay the beast. It says, and if a woman approach unto any beast, and lie down thereto, thou shalt kill the woman and the beast. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. So once again, where in the Ten Commandments do we see where it says that a human cannot engage in sexual intercourse with an animal?
Bestiality.
It's hard for me to. I'm trying my best.
But I'm just asking, because you said earlier that as long as we live by the Ten Commandments, that should be fine, for us to receive salvation. So I was like, okay, let's entertain that idea. So I'm just showing you a couple of laws
to keep our salvation, not to receive,
to keep.
Right. Not to receive our salvation, but to keep. That's what I meant by that.
Well, I'd say we got to keep these as well to receive salvation. But I'm just asking you, like, where in the Ten Commandments does it say that you can't lay with an animal?
So once again, I would go to fornication being adultery. I think that's pretty clear. I don't want to pull up definitions and all that. But adultery can mean a lot of different things. But it's really, adultery has to do with something with the flesh, right? So if you entertain the flesh in that sense, in a sexual act like that, whether it be beast, man, woman, and it's opposite of what Yahuwah wants you to do, which is to be in marriage to a woman, which is what he says, then it would be adultery, fornication. And he's clear about what he says about that. I don't disagree with you with the verse that you're reading in Leviticus, and I find it very valid in its time. What I mean by that is I don't take Yahuwah's word lightly, because it's 2022, and I don't think we should follow his instructions to the T. What I'm saying is that if you personally want to go out because a woman committed bestiality and track her down and kill her, then you go ahead and do that. Me personally, I'm all right on that, because I would think I would be breaking a commandment, which would be killing somebody, because it's not my job to do that.
So
that's Yahusha's
I got a question for you.
Yahusha came to judge, not us, right?
Okay, I got a question for you. So in if you go to Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 18 on down, to read about if a man has a stubborn and rebellious son, right? Which I'll get the verse, but it tells you that the men of the city are supposed to stone the son with stones. So would you say the men of the city, did they commit murder for stoning that son? Or were they following out God's commandment, which was to stone him with stones?
That's a really good question.
Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 18.
Right. That's a good question you bring up. I remember in the Brit Hadashah, where Yahusha comes and they're going to stone the woman for committing adultery, and he looks at them and he says, which one of you has not committed a sin? And if you have not committed any sin, then you go ahead and throw the first stone. And all the men obviously drop their stones and they walk away, because they realize that Yahusha had beaten them in the moral argument.
You know, some people would use that and say that proves that Jesus went against the Old Testament there.
No, I wouldn't say that. But me personally, I know Yahusha is the Torah, so that's not something that I would say.
Okay, but could I respond on what you brought out there?
Absolutely.
Is Christ knew the law, that the law said that if a woman commits adultery, she would be stoned. But what we see there, that's an act of mercy. Same thing with King David, right? King David committed adultery. He slept with another man's wife, but the Most High did not take David's life from him, which was what the law said. So the Most High can show acts of mercy where someone breaks the law, if they commit a sin unto death, he can spare their life if he decides to. And I can show you if you go to, Romans chapter 9, verse 15, it says the Lord will have compassion on who he decides to have compassion, and will show mercy to who he decides to show mercy. Right?
Right, that's what I said.
Wait, let me finish real quick. So the woman there, it would have been totally fine if they did stone her because she broke the law, but Christ showed her an act of mercy. He didn't have to do that, but he decided to show her an act of mercy because she did break the law and was worthy of death according to the commandments. But that was an act of mercy that the woman received.
Mm-hmm.
Would you not agree with that?
In some aspects, yes, and some no. I would say that, Yahuwah gave many commandments that the Israelites never followed. Neither did the Pharisees or the Sadducees. They did a horrible job, obviously. That's why he gave them most of them, because he knew they weren't going to do them anyways. And they always use Shabbat as their little cover up every week, so they can just sin all week and then try to come in on Shabbat and be like, oh, see, we're these good and proper, as Yahusha pointed out when he came to the earth in human form. So I would say that for the men to be justified in stoning her, no. I mean, yes, if you want to say, well, what about about this law in the Old Testament? But no, in the sense that if Yahusha, who created the law and is the law, the 10 words, and he's standing there and he created them and he says, I say this, he elaborates on what the law actually meant. He didn't actually tell them physically to go there and stone people. I mean, he said to do the act, but he didn't expect them to actually do it. He expected them to be moral and be good people and to forgive and show mercy, but they didn't, because they're greedy and they're disgusting. And the Israelites are.
I want to chime in real quick. Let me read this real quick, and I want to ask you what you think about this. Bear with me just a second. Okay, I'm at Deuteronomy chapter 21. We'll start at verse 18. It says, if a man has a stubborn and rebellious son, which not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and that when they have chastened him, he will not hearken unto them, then shall his father and his mother lay hold on him and bring him out unto the elders of the city and unto the gate of the place. Let me turn the page real quick. And they shall say unto the elders of the city, this our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice, and he is a glutton and a drunkard. And all the men, listen here, and all the men of his city shall stone him with stones that he die. So shalt thou put away evil from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. Right, so Paul says all the men of the city or take up stones and kill this son here. So would you say that would be murder, or what would you say about that? Just like with the woman, right? Just like with the woman in adultery, the punishment for that is getting stoned, right? So I'm showing you another example where someone committed a different sin and they got stoned for it. The average people picked up stones and they stoned him for that, right?
Well, I don't see that Yahuwah looks at one sin different from another. Sin is sin. It really doesn't matter, really, in the overarching sense. Sin is just sin. Once again, I think in the sense with the woman, he was expounding on a point about that what they were doing was not working, and the fact that they were evil men, how could they justify themselves in stoning her? How could they justify themselves? Meaning that when Yahuwah is telling them in the Old Testament to bring the son out or to kill this woman for adultery, it's because they're supposed to be holy men. I use that term loosely. Like Elijah destroyed many men, and so did Moses, and so did Abraham. They destroyed many men because they were instructed to, but they were holy men. So it was they killed, but it wasn't murder. And that's what I'm trying to get at. They were going to murder that woman. They weren't going to kill her. They just wanted to murder. They were instructed to, but they were holy men. So they killed, but it wasn't murder. And that's what I'm trying to get at. They were going to murder that woman. They weren't going to kill her. They just wanted to murder her out of just for the pure fact of just killing her. Just like they did to Steve.
But wait, that's not what the text says, though. She was found in adultery, so they were going to stone her for that act.
Absolutely. I'm not saying that she wasn't found in adultery and that they weren't going to stone her. But
there's a difference between murdering somebody and killing somebody, right?
That's what I just said. Their intention was murder, not killing. That's why.
How do you know that, though?
Because when Yahusha stepped in, he made it clear with what he said to them that it was a murderous intent.
I disagree with that. He told them.
Fine. That's what I like. That's what I like. No. I mean, that's what I like, though. No, because
Right.
this is. I don't want to keep talking about. You keep going on with this stoning thing. There's a lot of other questions you could ask me. How about we just agree to disagree? Because I think that's where we've reached the climax of this. Because I've given you my answer. I know you're not satisfied with it. That's fine. But I have
I'll
answered your
respect
question. Yeah.
Okay, I will respect that. I'll take your answer on that. But I do have to ask you though, with that reasoning, going back to what I read in Deuteronomy 21, would you also say that those men there, the men of the city, they stoned that son to death as well? So you would say they also murdered him, correct? Would you agree on that?
If they were in the instructions of Yahuwah, like we see with Elijah and Gideon and all of the different Moses, Abraham, if they're in the instruction of Yahuwah, then no, it's not murder. The instructions of Yahuwah, like we see with Elijah and Gideon and all of the different Moses, Abraham, if they're in the instruction of Yahuwah, then no, it's not murder.
Okay, but the men in John the 8th chapter, they weren't going by the instructions of God, even though the instructions of God said that they were supposed to do that.
Well, once again, I said that the men who committed the acts in the Old Testament, when Yahuwah gave those instructions, these men were men who loved Yahuwah, and their hearts were for Yahuwah. So when they did it, I'm sure that there was good counsel, there was good judgment, there was a trial, they went through the motions before they decided, hey, let's just stone him right off the rip. Hey, let's go through a process first. I'm sure they did it with a little bit more kindness and mercy. These gentlemen that you read of in the New Testament literally were doing it out of maliciousness, out of hatred. They just wanted to kill her. Yes, I agree with you. And you're right, they did bring up the fact, hey, but we're just doing what the law says. But that, thank goodness that Yahusha, who is the law, told them and expounded upon exactly what is now going to be, not erasing, not abolishing. As he said, I didn't come to abolish or change. He doesn't change, right? He says, I never change. He's just expounding on the fact that he asked them, do you men sin? And they dropped their rocks and left. So obviously these aren't men who are like Elijah, right? Who was allowed to kill, right? He was given the instruction to kill and he was allowed to kill. But Elijah was also considered righteous. Now, was Caiaphas and Annas considered righteous? No, they were evil men. They conspired and got him killed.
All right, that's fine. But one more point before we move on to the next thing, going by what you said, right? As I read, it says that the average citizens of the city, they took up stones and stoned them. So you'd agree that the average citizens in Israel back then, they still had sin, right?
I was not there. Couldn't tell you on that. That I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I wasn't there for that. I was not there. Couldn't tell you on that. That I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I wasn't there for that.
Okay. All right. I'll take that as your answer. But one more point, which is something different. What about, say, for an example, the dietary law, right? The rules in Leviticus 11, about, say, for an example, how you can't eat things in the ocean that don't have fins and scales, right? So crabs, lobster, oysters, eels, squids, stuff like that, that's off the menu, right? But today, is that stuff lawful to eat? Do you have to follow that just like you have to follow the Ten Commandments?
Yes, the dietary laws, yes, the dietary laws you have to follow. You don't eat pork, swine, obviously nothing that's bottom feeding. And there are reasons for this. It isn't necessarily just because it's a commandment per se. It's also a hygiene thing. If anybody does any just simple research, which I urge everybody to do, come check out my channel. I'll show you guys all that research. You'll see what's in pork and what catfish eat and what shrimp and crab, what they eat and what they don't process what they eat properly. So it's in their, in the meat. And when you eat
Bottom
meat, you
feeders.
get real sick and die. Yeah, you can get real sick and die. They put this stuff under microscopes and show you all the little parasites that's in the meat.
Yeah, I know about that. I know about that. But here's the main question, though.
Yeah.
Now that I asked you and see your position on that, which I agree we got to follow that, but here's the real question. Where in the Ten Commandments does it restrict what you can and cannot eat?
Where it says quite a few commandments. One, do not commit murder. That means commit murder on yourself. If you eat those things, he said that you will die. So you don't want to commit murder. He says you break my commandments, it's a death penalty. So if you want to murder, that's breaking a commandment, killing yourself. I can go on. There are other commandments. Obviously, I can keep going on.
I'd say that's a stretch to say that. I'd say that.
Well, his standards are pretty high, so I just kind of go with like that. You know what I mean? I think the standard is high, and it seems unattainable to reach.
Okay, but I'm saying in the Ten Commandments, it doesn't say that you can't eat them. And the only reason I'm harping on this is because I asked you earlier, right? You said that we would be fine, if we just, stick with the Ten Commandments, we can receive salvation if we live by those, right? So I was just asking you, where in those would it restrict your diet and what you can intake into your body? That was my question.
I wouldn't necessarily. I don't think that I necessarily said that you only have to follow the Ten Commandments. I think once again, a lot of the 600 and the rest of the 600, there's a lot of good morality in there, and there are some things too that you should do. If your neighbor lives next to you and something happens and you're at fault, you should take care of it. It's a moral thing. You don't have to buy him a cow Not like if you followed it hyper literally, then that's why I always talk about people follow the scripture a lot hyper literally, or they don't understand idioms or understand the morality tales. You know, Yahushua spoke in parables for the same reason, because people don't understand just direct language. It's just a morality thing. You know, I don't have to buy you a cow, but if something happens, you're my neighbor, I should take care of whatever happens in my yard. Like, let's say I have a son and he damages your property, I'm liable. I should take care of that. It's a morality thing. So I wouldn't say that you don't do the 613. I didn't say that. I'm saying that when we're talking about who was declared righteous in the Torah before Moses, well, it had to have been the Ten Commandments. So I would follow that all the way through. Because if you look at Yahushua, when he comes in the Brit Hadashah, he pretty much, and Paul and Peter, you know, they all pretty much sum it up. James does the same thing. Yehukanan does the same thing in the Revelations. I should say Yaakov for James, if anybody's, you know, familiar with the Hebrew.
Okay.
For Peter and all that. But anyways, you know, so they all continue this mantra, and then, you know, about how following my commandments, you know, I just say follow Torah. If you follow Torah, you can't go wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, it's always about what's a salvational issue. What's the salvation? Because if it's hard or it's too hard to understand, then it's not from Yahushua.
Okay, can I ask you something on that? Would you say? Let's just give an example. If somebody was to eat, let's say, a mouse or
A mouse sandwich.
Yeah, a mouse sandwich, like our buddy G-Man said, or let's say a swine, right, or a squid or an eel. Do you think that they would lose their salvation for that?
No.
Like they follow all the other commandments, squid or an eel. Do you think that they would lose their salvation for that?
No.
Like they follow all the other commandments, but they eat pork, right? You don't think they would lose their salvation for that, correct?
You mean okay, hold on. You kind of switched up here. You went from me.
Well, no, I mentioned swine. Maybe you didn't hear me that.
Oh, okay. So you're saying they're living a lifestyle of doing this, or they just did it once after they were repented and saved and all that?
Well, let's say that they accept Christ as their Messiah. They follow all the 10 commandments perfectly, or the best that they can. But
I don't know anybody that follows Christ that follows the 10 Commandments.
Oh, okay, but let me finish. But they still eat, say pork or certain seafoods, right? Bottom feeders. They still eat that, but they keep the other commandments.
Have they been taught not to?
But let me finish.
Have they been taught not to by the teachers that they have? Have the teachers told them like we teach them? Do they read the scriptures and teach them? Because I know what they teach in seminary school. Because the preachers know this in the pulpit, but they ain't going to teach it. They know it, but they don't bring in the dollars, and it don't keep the seats warm in the pews. But do they teach it? That's why they don't. It's not necessarily their fault. They're ignorant. Most people, the majority of people, when it comes to the scriptures, they let somebody tell them what it means because they think that they're not good enough to have an understanding of what it means. Because
what would be good right now is
the teachers aren't telling them that you have a direct relationship. You don't need me. Revelation 3:20. They don't let them know. They want to lord over them and hold a position over them. I have no desire for that. We're building His kingdom. I ain't building nothing for me. I don't have a circus. I have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Which I pay for.
Can I add in something to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Okay. Do you have the clip of where Mind of God says people are mentally retarded?
I don't got it, man.
You got to get that because right now would be a perfect time for that.
That's a good clip. But anyway, going back to what we brought up. So if somebody, believed in the scriptures, right? They follow the commandments the best that they're able to, but they still eat, bottom feeders or, rabbits, alligator, or pig. Do you think that would cost them their salvation?
Well, what I think really doesn't matter. I'll be honest with you.
Well, according to the scriptures, is what I'm asking.
Well, the scripture says Scripture says, what is sin? Sin is transgression of the law. Transgression of the law is death. Well, there's your answer. It's not really about what I think. I could give you my opinion all day long, and we can agree to disagree on that.
I guess I'm asking you what's your understanding of the scriptures.
We both know that it's a rhetorical question, and the answer is no, you're not to eat those things because you'll die. And that's simple as that. That's what the book says. That's what Yahuwah says.
Okay, well, we can agree on that. I was just asking you. I didn't know if you would agree, but we agree on that. But again, going back to what you said,
the scenarios that you provide are. I don't live in the world of and I understand you're young and you're coming through and I totally get all that, man, and I appreciate that and I really enjoy what you got going on over here. I just don't when I present things, I don't present hypothetical situations because that is not a way to apply something in your life. Like we're talking about things so that we can take this information and apply it. I can't use hypothetical situations to do that.
What's the name of your page?
Situation did I get?
When you're saying, well, what if a person does this and what if it's like, listen, we know what the scripture says. So you're asking me what a person does. Like I'm Yahushua and I wrote it. Like, you know what I'm going to tell you already. If you want to just ask me plain out, well, what do you think about, the dietary laws? And I say, well, I think you should, follow them. That should be the end of that. But to then go and say, well, hypothetically, even though, we both agree on it. Well, hypothetically, if a person doesn't already saved, do you think they're going to go to hell? Like that's a question that's a hypothetical question.
Well, we can talk about,
it's like asking if Adam and Eve had a belly button.
Okay. Real quick, end time. Do you still have a few hours? Do you have to go anywhere yet?
Oh no. I cleared up some time so we can.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. But then I want to come back to something.
Yeah, no, it's real fast. I just what's the name of your page? End times.
No, that's it. End Time Watchman, just like you see.
Is it the one with the 316,000 subs?
No, I got about a little over 2,000. I have a green symbol next to my
Okay.
name,
Let me look.
and then you'll see this disgusting mug on the
Okay,
screen.
I got it. Cool. I
And
subscribe to you.
if anybody else wants it, I'm putting
Oh.
the email in the chat. That's my email. And if you guys want,
I'll
free
put the
copy-
channel in the chat.
Yeah. If you guys want a free copy of Fossilized Customs, feel free to hit me up on my email, and I'll send you guys a free copy. Or if you guys want to talk or chat or whatever, but I can't put my link for my channel.
I
in
can.
your, yeah, because I'm not a moderator. Yeah.
Here, share it in the back chat, and then Jay can put it into the.
Well, no, I already got it. I already accepted.
Oh, okay, cool.
Thanks, I appreciate that, bud. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no problem. I
Let me
got
ask you a question. What's your take on polygamy? Is it lawful today? Going by the Bible.